you ever been in that situation where you really need to journal and then you get your diary and then you get your pen ready, you get all cozy and the pen doesn't write, and you try and you try and you try and you're writing and then it's running out and then you get super frustrated and then up nearly throwing the pen across the room sometimes. So this happened to me the other day. And it really inspired me to do this video, so I hope that you find it useful and you might enjoy the story with me. So what I noticed something within myself when I recently got back from India, and also whilst I was in India as well in the Ayurvedic hospital, was that I was suffering with so much dryness in my body. So because I have the Vata Dosha quite inherently within me, I travel a lot, I'm quite a busy moving person. Yeah, you can say that I slipped, I suppose, and this Vata Dosha became very high within me, and this dryness was driving me crazy. I was doing everything I could to remedy it, like with loads of oils and rasayana, and anyway, so I'm still on that journey now to recovering that dryness, and thank gosh it's actually improving big time. But I wanted to share this little snippet of insight that I had along this journey that really made me understand what I needed to do. I noticed when I got back from India and I arrived at my parents' house in England, I really needed to journal a lot of stuff that I had been feeling. And I noticed every time I picked up a pen, it was dried out and it wasn't working and it wasn't letting me write what I needed to write. And I got so frustrated, I ended up like screwing up the page because I was like, oh, why can't I just find one pen that works? And it was like one pen after the other, and I thought, this is weird. Like every pen I'm picking up, even the ones I've taken with me to India that were still in my bag, and like they were still dry. Anyway, so it got me thinking about the Vata Dosha, and I was like, isn't it weird that the pen is dry and my body's also dry as well? Like what's happening here? So I thought I could really nicely explain something that I realized about the Vata Dosha with this pen situation. So in Ayurveda, when the Vata Dosha is imbalanced, it can be two ways. It's either because the Vata Dosha has increased and it's causing problems within the body, but it's also an issue when it's blocked. The air is unable to move within the body, or the mind is unable to flow as freely as it wishes. So when this happens, we can see signs and symptoms within the body like dryness, some constipation might be there, a bit of anxiety, some fear, sometimes feeling separate, feeling a bit lonely, a lack of groundedness and stability within our life. You'll notice a bit of nervous tension as well can be there. What this allowed me to understand with the whole pen situation was that the pen was also dry as well. Now I started to look and think, okay, what would remedy the pen to make it work again? First though, I had to ask myself, why is the pen dried up in the first place? So if we think about a pen and why it might dry up, we are often using it too much. So maybe the pen doesn't write anymore because the ink has run out. That's a common thing why the pen might not write for us anymore and why the ink's not flowing. The second thing is that the ink has dried up, so it's not being used enough. So the pen has to be used in order for the ink to flow. We can see this within ourselves. Say for example, if we are this pen, if we're doing too much activity and we get exhausted from that, the pen's going to run out of ink. If we don't use our pen enough, the pen will dry up and the ink will not flow. And it'll be frustrating because you'll be wanting to write, but nothing will be coming out because you haven't been using it enough. So let's think about what allows the pen to write. Firstly, most importantly, it needs ink. So it needs a flow of ink going through the pen. We can correlate this within ourselves like prana, or the flow of consciousness. Secondly, in order for the pen to write, it needs to be a pen. It needs to be a physical body. So it needs structure, it needs stability, it needs protection for that ink within it in order for the pen to write. And thirdly, it needs someone to hold the pen and actually write. the actual thing that wants to be written. This is a bit like our physical body being the casing for the pen, and our hand that writes the pen. So our will to actually move the pen to create words to express the flow of consciousness, prana or ink, that's inside the pen. But when the pen has run out of ink or when it's dried up, what can we do? Well, I suppose if the ink's run out, we have to get a new pen. But if it's dried up, we can apply some heat. So normally, if we rub, we can allow the ink to warm up, and that allows it to flow much more easily. We can also, sometimes I give it just a quick bit of water on the tip of the pen nib, and this allows the ink to dilute slightly, to moisten itself, and that allows it to flow. Thirdly, you need a stable hand to be able to write. Even though that doesn't remedy the pen, in order for the pen to write, you will need to make sure that you have patience and stability to allow that ink to flow. So once it starts flowing, if you're holding it stable and if you're using it regularly, it's going to flow nicely. We can look to exactly the same remedies and we're looking to balance Vata Dosha. So if you're feeling dry or if you're feeling a bit stuck, you can apply a little bit of heat, moisture and oiliness to yourself, and that will allow things to flow more easily. So I missed out one important, vital aspect of this whole story and this insight. What we have to do is ask ourselves, even though the pen has a physical body, even though it has prana and ink running through it, even though there's a hand to write what it needs to be right, who is writing the story? So this is really interesting to think about, because what we need to remember is that there are many influences operating on us that influence our movements and our actions, including the story that we write for ourselves. What you might notice is that that flow of ink coming out from the pen is not your story that you wish to write, causing you to feel stuck. So the flow of consciousness and that prana is not flowing out. And what happens when we try to write with the dry pen? We feel frustrated and anxious and annoyed because there is something that we want to express and it's not flowing out. And that causes a build-up of tension within not just the pen, but the person holding the pen that wants to express this flow of consciousness. So my advice, if you have a dry pen, physically and also on the subtle level that I'm talking in regard to the Vata Dosha, is to ask yourself, who is writing the story? Make sure that when you're a Vata type person, or if you've got a lot of Vata Dosha within you and it's within your constitution, you've got to be writing your own story. In order for that flow of consciousness to come out and flow as it should, you've got to free yourself and take back that pen and make sure that the hand that's writing it is connected to that inner consciousness that wants to express something. If you're experiencing any imbalances with your Vata Dosha, or if you're a Vata type person and you feel like you need to find some sort of balance, do get in touch for a consultation or watch more of my videos where I talk about the Vata Dosha. You can do that through my website, or you can email me at info@nainaayurveda.com. I hope that was insightful for you, and perhaps you might look to your life and see where there are things happening that correlate with the dosha qualities too. It's quite a fun thing to do. Some people think I'm a bit mad, but I suppose it's like seeing the signs, putting it together. I hope this helped people to maybe perhaps write their own story, and yes, think about it next time they grab hold of that pen.